Once upon a time, in a distant kingdom where golden fields stretched as far as the eye could see, and castles stood like stone guardians upon the hills, there lived a young knight named Sir Alistair among the nobles who inhabited those lands. He was a man of pure heart and unquestionable bravery. Yet no battle, no matter how fierce, could prepare him for the greatest challenge of his life: love. On a summer's day, as he rode through the lowlands, Alistair spotted a lone figure picking flowers by the river. It was Ilara, a peasant girl with hair like ripe wheat and eyes that mirrored the sky before a storm. In an instant, the world seemed to stand still. The knight's heart, hardened by war, pounded as if trying to escape his chest. Ilara, for her part, had never seen a nobleman so close. Her work-worn fingers hesitated over the petals as her eyes met his. There was no arrogance in his gaze, only a gentle curiosity that left her breathless. From that day on, Alistair found excuses to pass through the village. Sometimes he brought gifts, a jar of honey, a piece of fine cloth. But the real treasure was the smiles she gave him in return. Ilara, cautious, knew that love between a knight and a peasant was a dangerous dream. But how could she resist when he looked at her as if she were the only star in his night? The rumors, of course, soon reached the ears of the Earl of Blackwood, Alistair's father. "A noble does not lower himself to a commoner," he thundered, his voice echoing through the castle halls. Yet the knight would not yield. "If love is a crime, then let me be condemned," he replied, on his knees, but with his head held high. Meanwhile, Ilara endured the sharp words of the villagers. "Do you think a knight will take you to a castle?" Some mocked. Others whispered that she was a witch, enchanting the young nobleman. But none of them saw what Alistair saw: her quiet strength, the kindness that needed no title to shine. On the eve of the solstice, Alistair found her in the same place where they had first met. "Run away with me," he pleaded, holding her calloused hands. "To where?" she asked, her voice trembling. "To a place where only you and I exist." And so, under the silver light of the moon, the two vanished into the morning mist. Years later, it is said, a mysterious couple was seen in a small village beyond the mountains. He, teaching children to wield wooden swords. She, singing old songs while gathering herbs. And if you ask the villagers, they will swear that sometimes, at dusk, you can still glimpse the figures of a knight and his beloved peasant girl, walking hand in hand through the golden fields. For love, when true, knows no barriers, not even those imposed by men. There was a kingdom where the wind whispered stories of intertwined love and duty, like the roots of ancient trees that held the secrets of the ages. And it was there, between the stone walls of Valfrey Castle and the lavender fields that stretched beyond its ramparts, that a knight with a loyal heart met fate in the form of a humble herb gatherer. Sir Gareth, son of the feared Duke of Valfrey, was a man of sharp sword and unwavering honor, trained to govern, to fight, to fulfill his duty, but never to love, until a wolf attack in the kingdom's forests led him to a forgotten village where a young woman, her hands dirtied by earth and her dress patched, faced the beasts with nothing but a pitchfork and a courage that froze his blood. Her name was Leora, and she did not bow when he dismounted, all armor and authority. Instead, she raised her eyes, green like spring after the rain, and said, without fear, "If you came to help, knight, you are late. The wolves have already fled." Gareth, accustomed to reverence, felt the world collapse into silence. That voice, rough and sweet like wild honey, echoed in his chest like a call he did not know existed. In the days that followed, the knight invented reasons to return to the village. He brought salt for the winter, repaired the roof of Leora's house, and taught the children to read shadows on the ground. And with each visit, she challenged him. "A noble like you has nothing better to do?" To which he replied, increasingly certain, No, but the heart of a knight does not belong to him. It belongs to the kingdom. When the Duke discovered his son's affection for a commoner, the order was clear. Gareth would marry the daughter of Baron Thornhold, or Leora would disappear forever. That night, under a sky heavy with stars, he found her at the edge of the forest. "They say I can be happy if I follow my duty," he confessed, holding her hands as though they were the only anchor in the world. "But my duty to you is greater." Leora did not cry. Instead, she placed a wild rose on his fingers, the same one that grew between the stones, untamed. "I do not ask you to abandon your world," she whispered, "only that you never lie about your heart." The marriage to the noblewoman was set. The people commented that Sir Gareth seemed like a ghost, his words cold, his eyes distant. But on the morning of the ceremony, when the priest asked if he took this woman as his wife, the entire hall heard the silence that stretched, until the castle gates burst open with a crash. Leora entered, not as a peasant, but as a storm. She carried with her a scroll, an ancient, forgotten law that allowed a knight to renounce titles and lands if he swore loyalty to something greater. And there, before the astonished court, Gareth knelt, not before the king, but before her. "My loyalty," he declared, "has always been yours." The Duke roared, the bride fainted, and Leora, with tears finally breaking through her defenses, laughed, a sound that Gareth swore to follow to the ends of the earth. It is said that the two left that very afternoon, under a torrential rain that washed away their traces. Some swear they saw, years later, a man and a woman living in the Blue Mountains beyond the kingdom. He, planting roses where there had once been only thorns. She, telling stories of a knight who chose love, and of a law that had always been there, waiting to be remembered. For even in the darkest ages, some truths remain. The heart does not obey crowns, and the humblest of bonds may be the one that breaks the heaviest chains. In the times when castles still reached their towers to the sky, and peasants worked the land from sun to sun, there was a young knight named Ricardo. He was brave, just, and loyal, everything a noble should be, but his heart held a secret that no sword could protect. It all began at a spring fair, when Ricardo dismounted his horse to buy a new cloak. It was then that he saw Anna, the weaver. Her nimble fingers transformed simple threads into true works of art, and her smile was warmer than the midday sun. When she handed him the cloak, their hands touched for a moment, and in that instant, the proud knight felt more vulnerable than ever. From that day on, Ricardo invented excuses to visit Anna's workshop. He brought gifts, silks from distant lands, skeins of fine wool, but the true gift was the hours spent talking. He admired her simple wisdom, and she was enchanted by his stories of distant lands. But the world was not kind to loves like theirs. Count Henrique, Ricardo's uncle, discovered their secret meetings. "You shame our lineage," the nobleman cried. "Either you abandon this peasant woman, or I will take care of it myself." The uncle's words were a veiled threat, and Ricardo knew the danger was real. That night, under the silver moonlight, the knight went to Anna's humble house. "We must flee," he said, holding her rough hands from years of labor. "Where to?" Anna asked, her eyes filled with fear and hope. "To anywhere I can call you mine." The escape was difficult. They rode through entire nights, sleeping in forests and abandoned barns. But every morning, when they woke up side by side, no castle seemed as grand as that simple love. It is said they settled in a distant kingdom, where no one knew their names. Ricardo worked as a guard in the city, and Anna opened a small weaving shop. And on winter nights, when she covered him with the cloaks she wove, he would always say, "No king has a treasure greater than this." And so, the knight who traded armor for love and the weaver who won a noble heart, proved that some things, like the threads Anna so mastered, can weave bonds stronger than any law of men.